The Middle East continues to build each and every day. In the last 24 hours, we have even more fighter aircraft moving into the region. In fact, we have F-35s out of the United States deploying in the last 24 hours, more F-22s out of the United States that have deployed. We have F-22s that have landed in Israel, F-16 Wild Weasels capable of that suppression of enemy air defense mission that deployed out of Massawa in the Pacific. And Reuters on Monday dropped an exclusive that Iran is close to a deal with China for CM-302 supersonic anti-ship missiles. We'll dive into that today because I think it's getting covered a mile wide and an inch deep. We'll try and provide a little bit more context. We'll touch on the Iranian coastal drills from the last 48 hours to give you a quick look and primer. For anyone that's new here, we'll dive into that SEAD Wild Weasel mission just a little bit and answer a couple questions that listeners have proposed in previous videos. So with that being said, let's get into it. On Monday, Reuters put out an article saying that the CM-302, this is sourced from 6 officials familiar with the talks, that Iran is nearing a deal to buy these from the Chinese. This is an export of the Chinese YJ-12 family, and they market it as a carrier killer. So size-wise, you're looking at something that's roughly 7 meters long or roughly 23 feet, weighing 2,200 kilograms or 5,000 pounds. It carries a 250 kilogram warhead, and that's 550 pounds for those of us in the United States. This missile, this warhead, is designed specifically to kill large warships with a range of about 180 miles or 290 kilometers. The flight profile here is what makes it challenging. It doesn't cruise at high altitude where radars have a significant opportunity to pick these up and even be targeted and shot down. This thing cruises around Mach 2, Mach 3, and drops down low, skimming the surface, sea skimming at a height in the terminal phase. Right down on the deck, low over the water, and it accelerates. This compresses the time for the ability to detect, target, and counter-defend against this. Something that's going Mach 3, hugging the surface, just doesn't give you a whole lot of warning and reaction time. When it comes to the guidance of this is another component that makes it rather robust. It uses an inertial navigation that's cued off satellites for the mid-course guidance, but it has an active radar seeker, which takes over in the terminal phase, that final phase, allowing it to guide itself to the ship. So right now, it seems the only answer or the only deterrent to this is the SM-6 missile that you find on U.S. destroyers or many U.S. destroyers, which incorporates a phased array radar system to detect these missiles and then able to engage multiple threats simultaneously, including low-altitude sea skimmers. But again, when we look at the distance where there's being shot at versus where these boats are at, there's definitely, again, a time compression that is a factor here. Now, these Burke-class destroyers use a SPY-6 radar, which is upgraded and does have more capability when it comes to detecting these high-speed, low-altitude missiles. And just like that CM-302, it's going to use offboard cueing coming from the ship initially off its radar, but it also has an active seeker able to guide in the terminal phase to minimize that lag and reaction time when these missiles are closing or have a closure rate at hypersonic speeds. And to enhance it a little bit, it also has cooperative engagement, able to take additional offboard cueing sensors to refine its targeting as it hones in to try and counter an anti-ship missile. So we now have this CM-302. That's roughly 200-mile, 300-kilometer range capable missile of Mach 3 sea skimming ship killer with a 500+ pound warhead. You're going to counter it with this SM-6, and that's your best bet in this scenario from what we know. Now, from what we know, the deal isn't finalized, the missiles haven't been delivered, but it seems like the timeline has been accelerated, especially after the 12-day war, especially after Operation Midnight Hammer, and as we see this build up in the region. Now, in the last 48 hours, we have seen Iranian drills escalate in the region. The IRGC ran a coastal exercise on their southern coast in the last 48 hours. Missile launches, drones, coastal gunnery against sea targets. Iranian state TV framed it explicitly preparation for potential U.S. and Israeli strike. This is the third or fourth time that we've seen something done like this in the month of February, so it's not a one-off. They're running through the playbook and doing it very publicly. Again, I would say their show of force. When the regime is facing what it believes is an existential threat, you pull out all the stops. In that scenario, a successful strike on a U.S. asset, it's a win for them because they have everything to lose and they know it. The drills are part of that picture, messaging to their own people, messaging to us, and an actual rehearsal should there actually be an engagement. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, we have a lot of new iron moving in the region. Before we do that, if you're new to the channel, that Wild Weasel component, those F-16s that have been moving to the region, I think it is a signal that this is getting serious. We've seen many more F-16s, Block 50s, Block 52s that are capable of suppression of enemy air defenses. You need these F-16s early in the conflict to ensure that the enemy's integrated air defense network is disrupted, degraded, destroyed, suppressed, so that strikers can get into any target area they might need to do. The F-16, still being a fourth generation platform, is viable in this type scenario with high-end engagement because it carries HARM, high-speed anti-radiation missile, or the AGM-88, working with platforms like the F-35, the F-22, the E-18 Growler, all doing that SEAD mission set. When it comes to force laydown, that has obviously increased over the last couple days. It's been no surprise that F-22s have deployed. They've made their way to Israel. We now have the USS Gerald R. Ford that is leaving Crete. It's been there for a couple days, making its way towards the Eastern Mediterranean Sea. Again, moving closer to this as well. And then we have more F-35s heading to the region. Early on in this conflict, we saw Vermont's F-35s move to the region. I think that's significant because you have a recent and corporate knowledge from Operation Absolute Resolve in Venezuela. They deployed out of the Caribbean, and they were some of the first F-35s to join into this mix as the buildup occurred. Now you have more F-35s moving as well. So I have been curious about the objectives here and what we're doing. The president said in the State of the Union address that Iran has been building back its nuclear program, and we'll listen to a clip of Vice President J.D. Vance and what he has to say about it, because this, again, definitely seems to be building a big stick when it comes to enforcing what the United States wants. So let's take a listen to this.
But the principle is very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. If they try to rebuild the nuclear weapon, that causes problems for us. And in fact, we've seen evidence that they have tried to do exactly that. So the president sending those negotiators to try to address that problem, as the president has said repeatedly, he wants to address that problem diplomatically, but of course the president has other options as well.
So there you go. It's very simple. And as far as Vice President Vance is saying that Iran can have no nuclear weapons and they've been rebuilding. The negotiations are ongoing, but it'll be curious, again, to see how this one plays out. Again, I don't think this will be a quick one and done, but who knows? Now, before we want to wrap up, I'm going to answer a couple of listener questions that came in, which I thought were good. And first one was, what's the difference between Wild Weasels and Growlers? Besides the platform, is there any difference in capability? So obviously they are different planes, F-16 versus the F-18, as you alluded to. The Wild Weasel, that comes out of the Vietnam era. Again, it's tied to suppression of enemy air defenses. It started in the F-100, then F-105, F-4, into the F-16, and transitioning to the F-35. We're in the transition period right now, where these players all come together. The Growler is what we consider a high-demand, low-density asset, so we don't have that many of them. It is going to be carrying HARMs like the F-16, but you're not going to have the Growler out there escorting, going really into the hornet's nest. They're going to be more standoff. They have some additional jamming pods, a lot of jamming pods that are sitting on its wings. In the backseater, the weapons systems officer, the naval flight officer, they're able to do a lot of jamming and specific jamming that F-16s can't necessarily do. So kind of think of the F-16 as one that's going to cross the line, going to go fight its way in. It's going to shoot HARMs. It's going to react. But that Growler's more standoff. If the Growler gets mixed up into the fight towards the leading edge, the plan has gone terribly wrong. This is not where you want the Growler. You want them back off doing their electronic attack specialty that they bring to the fight as a fighter platform. Next one came is, we've sent every category of equipment and possibly every piece in every category to the Middle East in the theater. Have I missed any that in your estimation would still be needed? It looks like we basically have the entire picture that we would need to go out there and do this. I said early in the video, we hadn't seen the F-22, nor had we seen F-16 Wild Weasels. Obviously, that one has been solved because those are going to be on the leading edge when it kind of comes to any type conflict. F-22 able to do that air dominance mission set, making sure there's no air-to-air threat out there, as well as do some assistance when it comes to SEAD, maybe even strike with their low observable capability and able to carry 1,000-pound ordnance. But now I think we have everyone in place. The issue becomes sustained operations. And if this is not just a one and done and this is sustained, having the mass and the depth of iron is really what is the missing piece. And what this becomes, I guess, who knows? Only time will tell. But I think right now we have all the players in place to go out there and for operations to be conducted. So if you do have questions like this, feel free to reach out. You can send me a DM on Instagram, or you can go to our website and send an email. We don't always see all the questions that come in. There's a lot of comments there. So sometimes the algorithm shows it to us, sometimes it doesn't. We're not on there all the time. With that being said, that's all I have for this one. So I'll see you next time.